I have to ask the question, what the fuck are we doing when it comes to training muscles versus patterns? And so if you don't know what I mean by patterns, it's the body really moves in a global sense, not just like an isolated sense. Something that came very clear to me in the very beginnings of my career, that just like was that aha moment, I guess, was like the Dan John chart of the body basically moves in a push-pull, carry, squat, hinge, and lunge sequence, and some anomalies outside of that. And if you can just formulate your plan of care to accomplish those tasks, then you're helping someone get up off the floor, pick a bag of dog food off the floor, propel themselves up from the ground in a jumping sequence, push the door open, pull something to them. And we're not talking about how I can isolate the TA or the multifidi or the bicep.
Yep.
Freaking hate it.
Agreed. Yeah, you're agreed completely.
No, nothing else needs to be said.
I don't.
And we do dive down these rabbit holes, right, where we end up getting super specific. And of course, as a scientist, as a clinician, you're designed to do research, and that means you have to like get down and isolate, right? So, but we see that drive care. And what that should do is give you knowledge and give you some background, and then you can take that and apply it to something functional, we say is the word that's commonly used, or something more pattern oriented. Right. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. As we get caught up in doing these isolated movement things and expect that's going to transfer, and it just simply doesn't do that.
But just with anything, the pendulum can go too far both ways, and we do, just devil's advocate again, we need to be able to go back and say, like, we could still test something in isolation, and we could still train something in isolation, because there are times where that's probably
local
relevant.
Tissue focus for sure.
Yeah.
I think about like, okay, how are you formulating in your brain that something that you're working on exercise wise is going to take them to whatever goal that they have, right? So if their goal is to become a more powerful athlete through the vertical jump, then we can't just talk about the quad. Can't just talk about the calves. Like, there's no way you could formulate a linear line in your thought process to be like, I need to do quad-centric exercises so they can jump higher. No.
Perfect example is teaching external rotation. Yes. The most common exercise in all of PT land, and I love it when I get a shoulder patient and they've gone through eval, and I say, how many people have you gone through? 3 or 4 different therapists and chiros. Like, I guarantee you, I'm going to teach you an exercise that you've already been taught before, but we're going to do it differently. And it's because I won't reference the supraspinatus or the infraspinatus. When we do external rotation, I'm not going to talk about muscles. I'm not going to talk about your little tendinopathy and be a little like geeky anatomy guy. I'm going to say, if you don't stabilize this shit, then you can't do a push-up, or else your elbow will flail outward. And I try and make it real, because if you focus on a stabilizing pattern, then you get to focus on a functional pattern, and then they go, oh, I get it. You see, no one ever told me that. And that's why they're not doing the program. That's why they're not doing their homework, is because you didn't align the dots for the aha moment. And that's why we don't talk about muscles.
But that comes back to communication, right? You segue. That's perfectly tied back into the overall topic here.
Even though I kind of laid it out.
That was very good. That was very good. That brings it back to the communication thing. You've got to make it relevant for them, right? So that was what you did. You gave the light bulb moment because you made it relevant for them. Before, like you said, their other clinicians were saying, you're doing this to isolate your infraspinatus, and they're like, well, why the hell would I want to do that?
I don't even like the infraspinatus.
Right, you said it's because your push-up hurts, so if you want to exert force in this direction, then you've got to be able to stabilize in this plane. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a big fan of training the pattern, obviously, to make it more functional. And like Aaron said, Dan Johnson did some amazing work here, and he's all of his stuff is free. If just go on his site is a great place to go check some stuff out. He's been a great mentor for all of us, and someone we've learned a ton from. Super just great at simplifying concepts, I think. Now it's not to take away from the fact that like this is simple, and that's not what we're talking about by any means, but because for someone to carry a certain load, or someone to squat, or someone to lunge, or someone to hinge, or someone to press, there's a lot of stuff that has to go right. And that's where we as a clinician have to take that knowledge base of that small little asymmetric single joint movement activity, and then link that into a chain to create this more advanced activity. And that's the art of what we do, of taking the science and the art together. That's what we're passionate about at our organization at KIME, is to really do that, to improve people's functional status, to improve their life. And we got to start wherever they're at. Sometimes they come in, can't walk, can't raise their arm, can't do anything, so we'll start there. Sometimes they come in and they can run, but they just can't jump, or they can't jump as high as they want. So then we'll just start there and take it from there. But either way, it comes down to evaluating the limiting factor, and then putting a plan together and organizing it to eventually, how how do we get this sequence or this kinetic chain to work as a unit effectively.